I can't even believe we're discussing this on this program, but, here we are. We're discussing it. And our friend Peter Schweizer has been doing the deepest dive of anybody into all of this. And he's the president of the Government Accountability Institute, host of the Drilldown podcast, his latest New York Times #1 bestseller, Blood Money, Why the Powerful Turn a Blind Eye While China is Killing Americans, and a new report out of the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party is revealing that the CCP now has been incentivizing fentanyl production via government funding. Other reports have shown that they have partnered with the Mexican cartels, and China is now subsidizing fentanyl chemicals that are being used to ultimately kill Americans, and they're making a fortune off of it, and we're allowing it to happen because our borders are wide open. Anyway, Peter Schweizer joins us now. Sir, welcome back.
Sean, always good to be with you. Thanks so much for having me.
How bad is it?
It's terrible. It's killing 100,000 Americans a year through fentanyl poisoning. I think the thing that people sometimes miss is, they see pictures of people that are, sort of shaking the, fentanyl addicts in San Francisco or elsewhere. The vast majority of people that are dying of fentanyl poisoning don't even know they're taking fentanyl. It's a kid studying for a college exam who a buddy says, well, take this Adderall. It'll help you concentrate. And it's actually, a fake pill with fentanyl in it, and they die of an overdose. And this is designed by the...
I have a very good friend of mine. He's been on this show talking about it, who used to work at Fox. Eric Bolling lost his 19-year-old son, University of Boulder. He got a Xanax, which, by the way, any doctor would prescribe to any student that might be suffering panic or anxiety attacks. And he just got it on the street, and it had fentanyl in it, and he never woke up. Yeah.
It is. It's not an overdose. It's an overdose medically, but it's really a poisoning because people are not intentionally taking fentanyl. And that's what makes this so troubling. And people will say to me, Sean, like, well, I don't understand. Why would, drug dealers want to kill their customers? Well, the Chinese want to kill Americans. That's their involvement in this. They control every stage from the precursors to the money laundering. But for the drug cartels, they're making 20 times. The profit margin on sending fentanyl drugs to the United States is 20 times what they make on cocaine or on heroin. So they don't care if they die. So you have this cooperation between the Mexican drug cartels and the CCP. They both get what they want. And unfortunately, our political leaders don't want to stand up and call China out on this. I can guarantee one thing, Sean. If the United States were doing this to China, President Xi would be in President Biden's face about this every single day. And yet this president does not raise this issue. He says there's not going to be any finger pointing for China in doing this. I think we're well past the point we need more than finger pointing to deal with this problem.
Joe Biden has shown no willingness at all, although he did talk about tariffs this week for the first time, probably only because it's been polled, because he hasn't done anything for over 3.5 years as it relates to China. I would argue that goes back to your previous book, Secret Empires, and the amount of money that the Biden family has done and how much money they've gotten from China. I haven't even gotten a total figure. Everybody remembers the WhatsApp message. I'm sitting here with my father. Why didn't you keep your commitment? Between everybody he knows and my ability to hold a grudge, you're going to regret not doing this. According to James Comer, 5 days later, $5 million was wired into one of these quote bank accounts, or what Comer calls shell corporations. You confirm that happened. Is that true? All true?
Yes. No, that's absolutely correct. And here's the thing. I mean, the Democrats on that committee say, well, the Bidens were engaging in business transactions with Chinese businessmen. That it's a pretty broad definition of businessman they're using. If you look at the head of CEFC, that energy company.
By the way, this is in the energy sector. This is just like Burisma in Ukraine. This is China's oil and gas giant. And they sent this $5 million. This is at a time we do have on tape Hunter Biden admitting he had no experience in energy, oil, gas, none of it. And we do know at the time he's admittedly was addicted to hard drugs. I can only imagine the dossier that that the communist Chinese have on the Bidens.
Oh, absolutely. And think about this. Yi Yiming, the head of CEFC, this energy company, had all of these other massively shady connections. So one of the bizarre and very troubling relationships is in 2017, he wires $5 million in the Hunter Biden laptop. This is, according to Yi, this is a loan, a forgivable interest-free loan to the Biden family, not just to Hunter. He wires $5 million. Well, he is business partners at that time with a Chinese gang leader who goes by the name White Wolf. They actually invested jointly and had projects going together and have these associations with these Chinese patriotic organizations. This guy, White Wolf, is the one who set up the Sinaloa cartel in the fentanyl trade. So you literally have 1 degree of separation between the Biden family and the fentanyl trade that is killing 100,000 Americans every year. So when they talk about a Chinese businessman, you are talking about guys that operate, yes, in Chinese business, but have criminal and other associations that make them far more than your typical Chinese businessman. And that's what a lot of people, I think, are missing as part of the story. And I think it's the reason that Joe Biden does not want to have a conversation about fentanyl in America, because it brings it too close to his family's financial gifts, as it were, from China.
Unbelievable. And I don't see any desire with this administration to ever confront China. Quick break, more with Peter Schweizer on the other side. All right, we continue with Peter Schweizer. His new book, a #1 New York Times bestseller, Blood Money, Why the Powerful Turn a Blind Eye While China is Killing Americans. I don't think they have the ability to confront China. I've got to imagine that the communist Chinese, Russia, and all these countries that they did business with, am I wrong in believing in my heart and soul that they probably have dossiers on Hunter Biden that would probably even implicate Joe Biden?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about it. And they also have the leverage of knowing that they have these dossiers, but have the ability to demonstrate the full extent of these relationships. The Hunter Biden laptop is just one source of communication that Hunter Biden used, that the Biden family used. And there's no question in my mind that there are probably other communication devices that the Chinese captured. And the bottom line, Sean, is we know one thing about these individuals that were stuffing the pockets of the Biden family. They were not getting any legitimate service or business in return. So the question is, why did they continue over the course of years to send millions of dollars to the Bidens? They were getting something in return. What exactly it is, we don't necessarily know, but I think it absolutely had everything to do with Joe Biden's policies and Joe Biden's posture towards China. So they are not in a position to confront China in any direct way, even though it involves the killing of Americans. And we've talked about fentanyl. You mentioned earlier the story in the Daily Mail that came from the reporting in Blood Money. China has smuggled these devices into the United States, the Glock switches, that convert handguns to fully automatic machine guns. They're highly illegal, and they've smuggled thousands of them into the United States. We've got machine gun fire in urban America. Our police are being outgunned because of this. But Joe Biden will not confront China on what they're doing. He wants to take away the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding Americans. So, again, this is resulting in violence and death of the American people at the hands of actions that China's taking, and Joe Biden does not want to deal with this issue or even confront China over it.
I mean, it's almost a novel that you would read and not even believe. It's so insane. What do you think the communist Chinese motive is here? Because it sounds to me like they're engaged in a Cold War against the United States, and the United States basically is putting their head in the sand.
Yeah, I think that's it. As I lay out at the beginning of Blood Money, China has this doctrine called disintegration warfare. And on the cover, it was a book written by 2 military officers in China in 2012, and it's been embraced by the Chinese government. On the front cover of that book, they quote the ancient Chinese strategist Sun Tzu, and the quote is, the best strategist is the one who defeats his enemy without actually fighting him. And what disintegration warfare means is we're going to look for ways to undermine, fragment, disintegrate the United States. But we're going to do it without giving the appearance that we're actually at war or doing anything hostile to them. And that's working. Fentanyl was part of that. COVID was part of that. These Glock switches that we talked about are part of it. We know that they're aggressively involved in cyberspace. They have, hundreds of thousands to millions of social media accounts where they position themselves. They present themselves as Americans. These accounts are actually run by Chinese intelligence officers and propagandists. And basically half of these accounts, Sean, say that America is a hopelessly racist, bigoted society. And the other half of the accounts basically say, I only like white people. They're trying to stir up dissension and racial fragmentation in America. So this is a full-fledged attack on the United States without actually giving the appearance of a war.
Peter Schweizer, president of the Government Accountability Institute, author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Blood Money, Why the Powerful Turn a Blind Eye While China Kills Americans. Anyway, Amazon.com, Hannity.com, bookstores around the country. There's a reason it's #1. Your government needs to read this. Joe's not going to do it in 200 days. That can all change. Peter, thank you.